Anyone else need an agenda? I always confuse.
No, I'm good.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, for which this meeting is called to order. And with that, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you can. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
the Republic for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have to do all the work tonight in terms of reading because Kristen is not here tonight. She's at a conference for her business. So first item after the call to order is approval of minutes, superintendent's report, and the assistant superintendent is not here tonight, so it'll be Anita, the director of finance and operations. School committee member reports, a discussion of the international trip to Belize and DECA, but it won't be presented tonight. We'll deal with it at the next meeting. Roof warrant article, this is the article that will be on the town meeting floor. Now that we've received firm hard money bid, we can discuss that as well. A discussion of the borough lease agreement and building improvements. The fiscal '24 student activity accounts and the dollar amount and their limits. Citizens' requests, and at the end, adjournment. This is a short meeting. We've all been very busy for the last forever, it seems, with various and sundry stuff associated with the search for the new superintendent. And I guess I will mention, because I'm not sure whether that last meeting actually got on Westborough TV, the committee voted unanimously for Allison Borges, and we have started discussions for negotiations with her and contract. Our letter of acceptance has been sent, and in fact, it's only limited by virtue of a completed contract. So with that, I'll receive a motion for approval of minutes of January 31st.
I'd like to move to approve the minutes from January 31st.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 4-0-0. Thank you. So the next item is superintendent's report.
Thank you. You have been busy. Congratulations on your focused effort and successful effort to hire a new superintendent after the end of this year. I just want to remind people I'm here till the end of the year. So I'm excited for us to have a candidate and the contract discussions underway. Congratulations. I think it's a huge step forward for our district in a really positive way to start to think about a smooth transition of leadership. I can promise you my complete focus to make sure that I am leaving things in a very good place and that I work with Allison to hand things over to her really successfully. She and I exchanged a text of congratulations, and I told her that after she finalizes her contract, that she and I will reach out and get together and start to bridge a relationship to make sure that we're in good connection between now and the end of the year, as much as she needs and wants, and that we'll set up a smooth transition for her. So congratulations to you. That is just a huge accomplishment. I think I saw 2 more postings today for new superintendent searches opening up. So I think the fact that you moved quickly, that you wanted to have a thorough but quick search that was allowing you to be in front of some other postings was very, very well timed. So well done. My work to move through the community and to provide budget updates continues. I have attended the Civic Club meeting, which I think I shared with you, and that was a very good meeting. And I went today to the Rotary Club and had a really positive visit with them around the budget, the articles, and just kind of the work of the district, and such a really fine group of people. just a reminder that we share some nice overlaps with them. Hallie works with them through the Trex recycling program, which she has talked about. So the school's in partnership with Rotary, continuing to expand that work. Rotary takes point on the farmers market, collaborating next year with Westborough Connects, and a lot of our student volunteer overlaps into the work of the farmers market. Again, like our students out serving the community and participating with these civic groups to make sure that Westborough has the volunteer network that it needs to keep things in the community going well. Unfortunately, the snow day canceled my visit to the women's club, which is really unfortunate because it's a really big group of just vibrant, really engaged women. I'm hoping to be able to see them before town meeting to be able to answer questions. So hopefully I can schedule into their March meeting. Otherwise, I might just share some notes with them, and I'll go either way just to talk about the schools, whether it's even after town meeting, to just keep that relationship connection and answer questions. Those are really good forums for just people having open conversation around things they want to know. So it's been productive. I'll continue those. I'll be going to the senior center with Christy, and I have a couple other visits planned. I think I'm going to do the budget video with Anita. The two of us are going to make ourselves famous with a budget video, and we should have that. We'll do that after we come back from February break, and then that would run in March up to town meeting. So all good things. The snow day, unfortunate. Just going to say I was last person standing and had not called until very late because I thought we could have school, but the complexities of how people want to call snow days now make it. I just want to be on record as saying I'm a proponent of calling in the morning, but everybody wants to know at night now because they think it's more convenient. So it's a bit of a dilemma because we could have been in school. So it was like enough snow that I didn't feel like guilty, but I just feel like we could have had school. So I think it's just something that we're going to watch. I think the superintendents are going to talk about it. You know, it's just a different cultural norm where people really want to know the night before. I understand that. But in this case, you know, it ended up being pretty much plowable snow and we could have had school. However, I just want to say to my seniors out there, that was your day. Hope you loved it. You don't have to make that one up. So it's always nice to do that for our seniors. So I'm going to continue my visits. I've booked a meeting to go to the FinCom on March 7th. So I think that's one where if you can attend, I would definitely want Steve there with me if possible. Steve, I think it's just going to be an open, good conversation around our capital articles, and they wanted to wait until they know we're opening the bids that day. So we'd have some hard numbers looking towards what the actual motions for dollars would be. So just an FYI that they've scheduled us, and that's, I think, what is that, 2 weeks before town meeting?
Is that in the evening, you know?
Yeah, 7 o'clock in the evening.
With that, I would suggest to all of us here that that if you can, you should attend, because I think that mechanism for understanding of the process that we get to town meeting is important.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I've done it a number of times. If you haven't been through one of these things, in the old days, it used to be really tough. It's much more reasonable. As a matter of fact, it used to be screaming and yelling, 30 years ago. It was tough. It was tough. And you weren't right, no matter what you said. It just wasn't possible to be right, because it was more money than 12. So, that's the way it was. Not to say that that's what we want to go back to, but like I said, it's certainly a more civilized process than
I think
what
the
it
boards
used to
are
be.
really highly functional and collaborative across the community, and just speaks to the quality of how well Westborough is run, that all of our boards are so collaborative with the joint committee meetings. It doesn't mean we're not asking tough questions, but there's really invested relationship in the work and a collaborative nature, which just feels like, what you want in a functional community. And I think as well that, you can watch from home. I think a couple times Steve literally has jumped off his couch and driven downtown when he wanted to make. When he did that once.
I did that once.
I was there presenting, and all of a sudden he walked through the door. So again, I think you can watch or you can attend. And that's my report for tonight. All right.
You all set?
You good?
No, I'm good.
That's me. I'm good. My report, done.
Anita?
Nothing to report.
All right.
Okay, you'll have your chance a little later, right? Yeah, okay. Let's see, school committee reports. Hallie?
So I've been able to go to a lot of the other schools in the district recently and talk to them about environmental initiatives. So I got to visit the Mill Pond Green Squad last week, and we talked about the upcoming Environmental Action Fair in March. And then I'm going to be going back to Mill Pond tomorrow to talk to some sixth grade classes about sustainable Westborough and the other environmental initiatives in town. And then on Friday, I'm going to get to go to Armstrong with some of the sustainability squad members from Gibbons, and we're going to do a composting refresher lesson. So I'm really excited to get to meet with all of the other students in the district. And then I also just want to say congratulations to our new superintendent, Allison Borchers. I'm really looking forward to working with her. And a thank you to the school committee for your thorough and efficient process.
Go ahead.
Nothing to report tonight.
Those are the good reports.
Same here, I have nothing to report tonight.
Nothing to report.
I have something. Based on Mr. Considine's request, I've spent the last couple of weeks or so more or less working on what is historically the better approach to cost-benefit, and it's called a life cycle cost-benefit analysis. The document's done. I gave it to Yakub to check today, but the bottom line on it, carrying all the anticipated maintenance costs for failed school associated with the solar and geothermal system, that on a net present worth life cycle cost basis of the facility based on information that we have today, which is the avoided cost of electricity and heating gas for the old failed school, the new cost associated with parts and replacements over the next 50 years of the project. That information was provided by the facilities department associated with their discussion with a vendor who supplied the chiller and the other mechanical components. Research with all of the electric bills prior to the new building in 2021, all of the current charges from National Grid for services provided during 2023, and other associated costs and stuff that comes with that kind of analysis. Anyway, for all of those costs, which is not only the current borrowing, interest rate, et cetera, that the net present value of the project is $6.7 million over the life of its plan. And I would be very happy to provide that information, Mr. Considine, for your purposes as soon as we get it checked. So with that, I think, the process, the school building committee itself, the attention that was paid by the committee associated with the construction of the project, with oversight of the contractors, with our architect, and discussions and arguments, if you will, to keep it to the scope and specification that we bid, oversight of the contractor, as well as inputs from our construction project manager, delivered the project $816,000 less than the original bid. And I think with that, I'm pretty proud of the process, pretty proud of the people that I worked with as part of the school building committee and everybody else that was involved with the project. You will see a parallel discussion, I think, at town meeting based on use of other information that was made available to the Sustainable Westborough Committee, which is different than what I just explained, but certainly it presents, in effect, the original presentation of why we decided to build the school as we did, based on the public hearing that was held by the architect, 2019, I guess it was. One of the things about municipal projects is that they are forced by virtue of the process to go on and on forever. We actually started work on Phil's school from a feasibility design point of view in 2017. So it's 7 years ago. And I guess you live the life, as Amber has on a couple of projects, as well as I, as these things unravel over time. I think the good news for school department projects, at least as long as I've been involved with them, we've always come in at less money than what was authorized by town meeting. And of course, in some ways, that causes some chagrin as we tried to transfer money from various articles that were completed with money left to other articles that, allowed us to do other maintenance projects for the schools. And in fact, you'll hear about that a little later tonight with money that's left over from parts and pieces of other projects that came in equal to or less than what was authorized. So I guess that'll complete our reports for tonight.
Great.
The next item on the agenda was the approval of international trips to Belize and DECA. And I think we want to talk about it, but not do it.
So there's 2 trips. We can approve the DECA trip because Amanda's here, and I'm going to have her come forward to present. But the Belize trip, we will move to the next meeting. So I would invite Amanda forward to come and make the long walk up here, Amanda. Amanda Ugranow is a guidance counselor at the high school. She is also a Ranger grad and a long-standing community member. So we love it when we bring Rangers home and they are here in the community with us. So I'm going to open up the first piece. So Amanda, why don't you walk them through each of you've got the March 7th to 9th, and then you have the April to May 1st, which is the states, right? International. So I will turn it over to you, and why don't you begin with the state trip to downtown Boston?
So hello, my name is Amanda Ugranow. I am a school counselor at the high school. I am also the DECA advisor. DECA is a club in which students compete in different kinds of ways. It's a business decathlon, essentially. And I apologize that these were not presented to you prior to them really being happening, but I was not the advisor prior to like maybe a month ago. So I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. Our state's trip there are 38 students attending the trip. This, I have sent out this is our daily schedule that is also being worked on. All of these students will be competing in some form over the course of 3 days. They'll start at school on the 7th. We will leave halfway through the day, and then they will return on Saturday to be picked up by their families. If they do place at the competition, then we will be invited to go to internationals, which is out in Anaheim, California. We actually already have had students be invited to those due to a student won a hat designing contest. And then we, as a club, is what we call a Thrive Club, meaning that our club has reached a certain level of membership as well as engagement. And so we've been offered spots to have students attend leadership conferences, even if they don't place at the state's competition level. So yeah.
So I'm going to pull up the itinerary. This is the schedule for the state tournament that Amanda was referencing. You can see that they would be doing bag drop-off, getting set. They keep these, they're very structured, these kind of student conferences. This follows a professional conference format where you've got workshops and things in the competitions. So they would be moving through these different competitive meetings, placing, getting information. So you have that schedule, and that's all downtown at the Copley, correct?
Correct.
All right. Why don't we take the trips in kind of singletons, and then, so that's trip number 1. We can open it up to any questions you guys have. DECA did the same structure last year, so it's basically a repeat. You're good?
Yes.
We need a motion to approve, and then you would need to vote on this first trip.
I move to approve the DECA trip to Boston.
I second.
Any discussion? None? All those in favor?
Excellent,
4-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
They also then, as Amanda explained, would have an opportunity to go to the California trip. The numbers of students in there are estimated as of now. It could be a small number. I don't know how many they took last year.
It depends on really how many place. Right now, because of, we have at least 7 have to go, or the spots that are offered for them. But it could be more depending on how they place at the trip, at the Boston competition, which happens very soon. And once I get that number, I will update you all of how many kids will have, be offered to go.
And do you have, I'm like asking the questions for you, sorry, it has the itinerary attached here. Did they give you a cost on this as a package yet, or are you waiting to do that?
I'm still waiting on a lot of information. DECA likes to move at the pace of a snail. So also because there was some turnover, at one point Mary McDermott was the advisor, at one point Brian Callahan was the advisor, and now I'm the advisor, so there are different pieces there with that.
So maybe what we would do is, just for the purposes of tonight, it would seem logical since we moved the other trip, if Amanda's willing to come back after she does the trip in April and when she gets more final information on cost, numbers, and programming for this second trip, we can ever come back and do the approval then. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm fine with doing that.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense, just because then you can get a cost, number of chaperones, and because it's a farther trip in that sense, I'd want to make sure we know the air cost, the fundraising, and those types of things before we approve.
Yeah, particularly the transportation arrangements and who does what to who.
Exactly, and traveling together and all of that.
Yep.
So as the advisor, thank you very much for stepping up. You'll want to come back, and Mr. Callahan can help you lay it out, but you're going to want to have the cost, how many chaperones you're taking, what the flight arrangements are, just so people can have a picture, because whenever our kids are doing that level of travel, we just want a little more detail.
Absolutely.
So you're leaving here with the approval for them to go to the next phase, and then you can work with Brian on coming back when you have the other pieces, and we'll do that approval second.
Sounds great.
Great, thank you so much for coming out and answering questions, and thank you for stepping up with DECA. It's a vibrant, really busy group, so I know you're doing a lot with them.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Next discussion is the roof article for town meeting.
Okay, so we have an article for discussion here, the draft warrant article, and I actually updated it and because we were working on it today. So Anita and I just want to present to you the anticipated article, since we have a hard number for the Hastings roof. So the draft of this article is basically a straight request for funding for the $3,758,000, which is for the complete roof replacement. That number, given the size of that roof and the fact that we have all those pod pits that come down on the inside, that they need to add safety railing around and some other things, is a very advantageous bid. I expected it to be over 4. So I'm feeling good about the number, as were the people we spoke with, and it was the best of the 3 bids. This article needs to be, so we're going to go through both of them. This is a draft. It needs to then go over to be submitted to Christie once you have voted it, and it would go into the next draft of the warrant. Okay, that is the most essential thing, is that we get in the queue. It requires a 2/3 majority. You know, they always have council look at the language and cross-reference it, and they call us back if there's any questions. Anita's skilled at writing these and has all the key pieces in there. So this first one would be to seek, it's a 2/3 majority vote to basically raise and appropriate, however they ascertain that they want to do that, for the cost of the roof.
Well, at this point now, we know that the amount of money is $3,758,000 based on a hard money bid, the lowest of the 3 bidders, which is in effect the process that we've been after for a long time. It's slightly different than what we normally do, because DCAM, which is the state asset management part of the state has certain procedures that you have to complete in order to do this, and it's a time-consuming process. Because we were able to submit to them an application to explain the fact that the Hastings roof has now become an emergency, through that process, they waived some of the requirements, but not the 3 bids and 3 competitive bids under the normal processes of the state. So I think we have all the components in here, but I would remind us that we probably should vote this article, at least in draft form, so it can get to the town hall, because they will give it to town council and it'll expand probably that much more in terms of language, because it will be a borrow. With that, I think I'm satisfied with the particulars on this in terms of money, process, and I guess I'll just add that the scope of work is as was defined by the engineer that we hired to create the documents necessary to bid it under the normal DCAM process. So the specifications were there, the drawings were there, the quality of material was there in the package that was bid. And so as a result of that, I think we have, from our side of the equation, everything that we need to be able to vote on it. So I would recommend that we do that, if there's a motion to do it.
I'd like to move to approve the article for the Hastings School new roof replacement.
And I guess we would include the fact that it's a draft subject to rewrite by town's council, if you accept that. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, additional discussion? Yakub, it looks like you're thinking about it. You should ask the question that I know is in your mind, so that we get it on the table now in regards to things that are out there circulating in the town for this town meeting.
I guess my question would be then whether the new roof would be suitable for potential solar panel installation in the future?
Well,
So,
I'll
you-
try to answer that, I guess.
okay,
Technically, when schools were built, particularly in the age of Hastings, Armstrong, and Gibbons, that the roof itself structurally was only good enough to support the stuff that was there, that is the roof structure, planking, et cetera, and the snow load, as well as the roofing. The state changed the laws relative to snow load a few years ago. So now the design roof load is greater than it used to be. And that issue, when you add what is an equivalent based on solar panels to the snow load itself. So basically the roof now has to perform twice as much relative to solar panels than it did when it was designed. What we have found out, at least in those 3 schools, is that the structure is adequate for what we're doing to it, but probably wouldn't be without upgrades. The second piece of the story is that this is now bid based on the fact that the scope of work is what it is. That is to replace the roof accordingly in this time. So it's not possible in my mind, other than stopping the process, having to go through another 6 months or a year and another bid, to make the structural of Hastings suitable for solar panels. So I would say, this is it. Either we accept it and fix the roof. But I would add this, that at least Amber and I have been talking about other opportunities for solar at those 3 schools as well as the high school. That doesn't necessarily have to put solar panels on the roof. So to the extent that other things could be done to satisfy the wish for solar power generation, I would say, in my own mind, based on the needs of the school itself and the fact that we are at risk of significant costly damage if we don't fix it now and fix it as soon as we can, that we probably would find ourselves having made a mistake if we held up this project in regards to the issue of do we or don't we want to put solar panels there. So again, I support the motion that was made and seconded, and that would be my answer. And certainly I'd stand up at town meeting and make the same statement with the knowledge of all this stuff based on having remodeled portions of the roof at Armstrong and portions of the roof at Gibbons, and knowing that part of the HVAC design, which is also in the hands of the architects, that in fact there are weaknesses in the roof, and that parts of the structure to support the new HVAC design are being redesigned for that purpose only, not for area-wide support of additional solar panels. So anyway, that's what I know about this, and I would suggest that to do otherwise would be problematic at this time.
I was
So
gonna-
that is my answer, I guess, to the question
Thank you.
I know will be asked.
I was going to say, Steve, that, yeah, I mean, it would appear that the conversation about solar panels at this point is sort of moot, given that this is a provision under, DCAM is authorized this under an emergency provision, so I don't think we really have a choice.
Well, that's true, but more importantly, the specifications and scope of work and now the bid is specific to all this stuff. I mean, one of the ways that we were able to do what we did at Fales is we held the contractor and the architect and the OPM to the specifications and the drawings that were bid. And as long as you stick to those, they cannot change the dollars. As soon as you make a change to the plans, for which the contractor has an opportunity to ask for more money, then we're stuck. So in all cases, once you bid it, stick to it. And that's where we are at this point. So let's see, the motion was made and seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. So at this point, we're moving this article forward to the town and the town council for whatever rewrite would happen. But I think our vote should stand in regards to the purpose of this article and the dollar amount that's there. So with that, we can move on to what you have next.
So, thank you. Obviously, we're over here conferring on a couple things. These are complex articles, lots of moving pieces. So, we're taking some notes on things we want to confirm based upon the discussion, and we'll bring things forward to our next meeting if we get, some different types of information. So the second part of this is that we had an article that was voted at the 23 annual town meeting, Article 10-0, which gave us $500,000 for design of the Hastings roof. That was moving forward as part of the package of work that we were going to do, because remember, we were going to do this roof, but we swapped over to Armstrong first. So we had already we'd already been granted an article to do design, which is why when the roof failed, we were able to move very quickly to go out to bid, because we had the design basically already done for future use in another capital request. So the money for that, however, the design came in less expensive, so we have money remaining in that article. So this is a request that requires a simple majority vote. It would be an article basically to see if the town will reallocate the surplus funds from Article 10-0, remaining of $384,800 over to the roof replacement work. So it will fold that money over into the funding request for the roof. We need the full funding request for the roof up above, which is what we asked for, because that does not carry contingency, and it does not carry any backup for any other design errors or problems. So this would give us the contingency funding available to complete the package to move forward with the roof. The $3,758,000 is for the complete contract to replace the roof, but it does not carry contingency. So by asking to basically reallocate this remaining funding over into the same roof work, it'll give us a contingency backup. You remember that and if we have funds remaining, we always return them to the town at the end, we close it out and move forward. You remember when we did the Armstrong roof, again, it was an exact bid and an exact dollar amount, but then remember the the spouts, what do we call them, that we had to do additional design for, and we needed to add additional changes to the, what?
Scuppers.
There we go. I couldn't pull the, seeing as I'm not a roofer or an engineer, we ended up paying over $40,000 for the additional correction there, and we weren't carrying that money, and we didn't have it in the article. So this gives us contingency funding coming into a much more complex project, and it would be a simple majority vote to basically move those funds allocated over to the roof project. We would carry it as contingency for any change orders or things that might happen, and it would go into the complete composite, what's left at the end. We didn't have a thing left at Armstrong. They spent it right down to the penny and closed that out. So I anticipate the same here. If we didn't need to access these contingency funds, we would close the article and revert them back to the town.
I guess I would just add, since we don't have contingency on the $3,758,000, normally you would carry a 10% contingency, and the $334,000 is a little less than what 10% of that would be. So I think it's all in order, and the concept is a normal concept to do. And so I would support this and make a motion to support it as written with a $334,800 transfer into to the article above. So
I'll second that.
very good. Any discussion?
I have a question. So just in terms of, I know you don't have any solid numbers and you're carrying contingency. I'm trying to figure out what do you anticipate are excess funds from the design that sort of, that you're looking to reallocate?
It's the $384,800 is the remaining funds from, because
Oh, it is.
the
okay.
original article was $500,000. So
gotcha.
the design is complete. We've closed all the billing out. We've checked
perfect.
multiple times, and we're confident that we can then basically roll the allocation into the general roof project, carried as contingency if there were other design needs or change orders like we saw with the Armstrong that were unanticipated. This would be the funding that would basically give us that buffer, or we revert it back to the town when we're done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Sorry.
400, thank you. In favor.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It feels good to be at a place where we have a hard number on both of these two clean articles that go into Christie. I'll have Anita send them over after the meeting, and that'll move us forward. Then we start working with FinCom. We can probably go back to Capital, and we'll put together a communication that goes to the Capital Committee, which, Anita, we should talk about tomorrow, sending a Capital Committee update now that we have these. And you remember the next phase is we will open the bids on March 7th. And so Anita has been doing a lot of kind of forensic accounting, I would call it, on all of the articles that have been voted for Hastings over the years to look at what funding options we have remaining, sitting, waiting for use. And we'll bring that when we come to talk about the ADA article, all right? So that will close this up for now. The next topic, can I move to the next topic, Mr. Chair? Are you good with that? All right. We were going to finish, you might be done in an hour. Look at you. It could be a new record. So the next article, or the next item for discussion, is the borough lease agreement. I have some, I think, good news updates about where we are with that. First of all, our Valentine's Day sales have been very robust. We had a really, I'll just do a little fun bit to start to say that at the store on Saturday, there was like a pop-up where we had other vendors, and it was a vendor event, and we had card making for kids in the kitchen area, and the store did really well and had robust sales, as did the vendors who had a range of gifts and other types of things for the Valentine's Day. And we had our full staff of students there working to wrap things and to host the table where the cards were being made. It was a really well-attended, really enjoyable, fun event. So the borough is thriving. The work pace is picking up. We're picking up a lot of bulk orders for birthday parties, weddings, showers, corporate orders where we're doing 1,000 orders or 250. So there's interest in some bulk order fudge purchasing. So there's exciting things going on. Clearly, we want to, and it was part of our original design, to then make sure that we did upgrades to the basement so that we could continue to meet our expanding needs. We also want to finish part of the basement area because we have an interest in program expansion for some of our, I would call them school avoidant or complex needs, where and there's a very small number of students, but you might have 1 to 3 students who require a different site in order to build kind of a bridge return to school, or they can be at the high school some, but also have off-site tutoring and work. And it gives us an option because they really aren't typically able to be in that large setting. So again, a program expansion for us. So very excited that we've worked with our landlord, who is willing to offer us a 9-year lease extension, would amortize the work through the lease. And then Sherry has a grant that she will use for the new program design part. So we're feeling very advantageous about it. I would like to seek your approval to allow Sherry and Anita and I to go ahead and negotiate and finalize the extended 9-year lease and look at amortizing a portion of the cost for just updating the downstairs across the lease. And I will bring you the final lease agreement to review. We'll send it to our lawyers. We do all that's all part of, process. But thrilled to have an amazing landlord in Todd Alexander, who has been a real partner, and he is very willing to move forward and complete the renovations for us and amortize it through the contract. Having a 9-year contract is the longest we've had. I think we had 4. Did we have a 5-year? We had a 5-year. It was like a 4 with an extension. This is now, we'll start with a new 9-year lease to make sure that the amortization of the improvement work, is valued by us and achieved. So exciting times program-wise. I would seek your approval to move into contract negotiations to complete the lease. And then I would love to have you over to do a tour of the downstairs and see what kind of upgrades we're going to do. I think it's very exciting. I guess I would open it up for conversation and whatever you need.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll throw a motion out. I move to, let me try to get the wording right. I move to approve contract negotiations with the owner of the borough for the possibilities of a 9-year contract. So move to approve the beginning of negotiations.
And I'll second that. I think, one of the things that I've always looked forward to is the blossoming of the program at the boroughs. And in fact, that continues to do it to improve both the environment for the kids there, as well as an ability to carry the cost of the building and the benefit to the town. It continues to be all that we hoped it would be, and perhaps even more, which is truly an opportunity for our kids that are in that program to move into a better life, I think, based on their experiences from it. So, all to it. Is there further discussion?
Just one question. That 9 years sounds like a random number. Why is it 9 years?
It's the way that Todd proposed it, I think, because it would have been 10, but we're in this year in his mind, so he was just doing 9. It's part of the negotiation discussion. I know it seems like you'd want a round number, but he said 9.
Okay.
I think, I said the same thing, but I forget where it is. It might be because we have 1 more year left next year. I think we have 1 more year, and I don't know if he would pick it up from there, which would be 10.
Yeah, okay.
I will keep you updated as we go. I will send you informational updates. I'll send you, both verbal and email updates for just informational purposes. You can call me, ask any questions. I'm fully available to track that with you as we move forward on it. And then once we have paperwork finalized, I think it'd be great to get you guys over there to see kind of what it's going to be downstairs. So.
Okay. there's no other discussion?
I just have a question. So we're going to have an opportunity to see the lease and
Yeah.
just,
Definitely, I will forward it all as informational, and then you can call and ask questions, and happy to have you sit in and, while we participate, I know you like to do those contracts. Very happy to have your eyes on it with us, and Anita can send you the current one. You can take a look at it, and as we do the update, I'm happy to, make sure I'm sharing it with all of you along the way and update you as needed, definitely, for your consultation and general just information.
yeah, I'm curious about what the terms, the change of terms is in terms
Yeah.
of, costs and all of that. So, but I imagine that it's a standard lease extension. You're already in a lease, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's a quality contract from before, and we ironed out lots of pieces, but let me start by I'll have Anita send you the one we have,
Okay.
and you can take a look at that, and then as we move forward, I think if you have questions, we can build in as we go.
Yeah, and I guess I would remind us all that normally we do those negotiations from our side in executive session. So
Right.
not only will individually be able to see it, but we'll also be able to have discussions amongst ourselves as to, terms and conditions and nuances, if you will.
And I think,
we all read something differently and may have
yes.
different meanings to us.
And I think Sherry's anticipating, I think that she and Anita, we're gonna be working it forward with our landlord, and that we would, by our next meeting, the one that we have after vacation, the 28th, you could have an executive session if we have a draft and take a look at where we are. So it's definitely a natural process. I appreciate if you can vote approval for us to dive in and start getting it done.
Okay, if we're all set for a vote, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, 4-0-0.
Thank you. It's interesting, the farmer's market hosted by Westborough Connects and Rotary takes point on this, working with different groups. They're going to move to Bay State Common next year. So we are very active participants through the Sugar Shack at the farmer's market, but it's just going to add a whole vibrancy to have it located there. So I think, again, working with the store and the location, some really good things available. Thank you for your support. So the next item, I'm going to turn it over to Anita, who has a proposal for an update to the accounts for the student activities.
Thank you. I'm looking for approval for our student activity accounts to increase the checking account limit balance. Currently, our 3 elementary schools have a balance of $5,000, and I'm looking to increase it to $6,500. Our Mill Pond School is $20,000, looking to increase it to $25,000. Middle school is $15,000, looking to increase it by another $10,000, and Westborough from $50,000 to $80,000. Right now, with the costs of goods and services increasing, and also towards the end of the year, the high school has to pay for prom, graduation, and then other random, other miscellaneous year-end expenses. They're constantly having to come back to my department just to ask for checks and having to do transfers between the savings and the checking account. So we're asking just to increase the balance permanently.
Okay, I know that at least locally, they're handled by the principal in the school in terms of the allocation of
Correct.
funds from the revolving funds. So my question is it your department that does the audit on them?
We do. So we do an annual audit, and then our external auditor does that audit every 3 years as well.
Okay. There a motion, I guess, and then we'll have discussion.
I'd like to move to approve the increase in the checking account balance for the student activities at the various schools.
As offered here by the date on this document.
Yes, that too.
Okay, so that refers then to this document being the amount of money that was just read. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, questions?
One comment before we dive into, as you see an increase in the number of trips, you see Mill Pond added Nature's Classroom. So they have a bulk of checks that are all coming in at once that have, a higher, like Mill Pond hadn't had that level of activity, but with the adding of those overnight trips and large groups of students with a 900-student school, it's just giving them the headroom there to be able to bring all those checks in at once without having to do the back and forth. But I would open it up to, sorry, Anita, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sarah, do you
Oh,
want
no, I was just going to say, it looks like the high school is the one that really needs the most.
Really do.
So is that related to what you were talking about with the prom and some of these end of the
It
year
is.
school activities? Okay.
Yes.
Do you think these amounts are sufficient?
They are,
Okay.
they are.
So I just want to ask a obvious question, but I want to on the record. We're not adding any money to these accounts. We're just changing the limits on the accounts.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I guess to that end, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I wrote a report relative to revolving funds. Perhaps sometime later in the year, you could just do a summary of revolving funds, the structures of them, the way it works, where the money comes from, where it goes, that kind of thing. Because, as is seen on this list, there's a fair amount of money that moves through it. And generally, in my belief, it's all students' funds, correct? Generally, that's the source of it.
Yes, it is.
And so that was a reason behind my comment about the audit, as well as the process. I think that would be good to revisit that for the benefit of ourselves and the audience as well.
Irene was my original business manager, was steadfast in the auditing of those and the annual work, and Paige would go, and the director assistant would go to each of the buildings, do all the accounting, write up a report, make recommendations for any changes, and the audit on every third-year cycle. It's a pretty tight loop. But I think it is good to bring it back in front of you and let you see, like, basically, these are holding pens for money that comes in and then goes back out. So, these are the arenas for all the field trips, and T-shirts, like everything.
Yeah, there was some discussion a number of years ago to somehow or another use this money for purposes different than what the accounts were created for. That was the reason why I wrote the report, to basically, they're sacrosanct, they can only be used for what they're supposed to be used for. And as you've noted, the tracking of the money and the responsibilities of how it gets removed, where it goes, how it gets put there, is important for the public to know that we are on top of it and make sure that the kids don't find out that their deposits have disappeared somewhere.
Right.
So we're probably ready for a vote. All those in favor? 400, thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Durrett, you are running a well-timed meeting tonight on Valentine's Day after multiple nights out, so our goal was to keep you moving forward. I would turn it back to you, and I believe that we have completed the actual items that need to be covered tonight.
Okay, the last item on the agenda besides adjournment is citizens' request. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak to us? Come on up, please.
Thank you once again. Joe Considine, 10 Smith Street.
Hang on, Joe. I will read, because now I don't have the person I always ask to read what our rules are. And I understand that probably they don't necessarily have any interest in what you're going to speak to us about, but I'll read it anyway. Before we begin, we will remind everyone of the school committee policy regarding citizens' request. You must be a current resident of Westborough. Speakers are allowed to address the school committee about issues within the school committee's purview. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak to the school committee. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the presiding chair before or after the meeting, and you are welcome to hand the chair additional comments in writing now or send them via email, and the chair will share them with the other school committee members. Public comments by residents at this meeting is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between individuals in the school committee. It is an individual opportunity to express an opinion on issues within the school committee's authority. Our role is to listen carefully to what you have to say and share with us tonight. Clapping, cheering, calling out, or any other noise during or following a speaker is not allowed. At the close of the citizens' request, school administrators may address what was shared by the speakers if they wish to do so. And as you have already said, Joe, state your name and street address, speak directly to the microphone. The only other thing I would add is that in a past meeting, someone did mention a candidate for election, and that is off limits as far as the school committee is concerned, because it's never anything that would be on our agenda associated with town elections in any way. So with that, Joe, please proceed.
Great, thank you. I have handouts. Do you want the handout?
Yeah, if you think it's pertinent.
Well, I'll just leave it afterwards. I'll just refer to it, okay?
Yep.
So basically what this is a copy of a slide from a presentation on MCAS scores that was given by Dan Meyer a couple months ago. And I'll just summarize for you. It talks about grade 3 to 8 ELA scores over time. And it shows, I'll let him describe exactly what it says, but it shows that the level of proficient readers went down by some 10 or 15% points during COVID, and then it's been flat last year. And then there's also a not meeting student performance that was 4% pre-COVID. Now it's 7%. It went to 8% last year. So it's my summary is this is not good news. This is not the news that any of us want. So anyway, that's what I'm presenting. And I think you all recall, at 3 meetings last year, I asked the school committee to make this a priority, addressing this issue. And I suggested that a committee be formed to focus on this issue. My suggestion was dismissed without any serious consideration. Thank you, Amber, and Daniel's not here, but for meeting with me. I wish the meeting resulted in a bigger focus on the issue, but the results don't point to that. Instead, I came to another meeting last time to hear more and more about DEI and green. These are worthy goals, but not to the exclusion of learning. Last meeting, your committee saw fit to have yet another agenda item discussing exotic trips for a few lucky students to Guadalupe for $2,900 per student and China for over $4,200 per student, and a suggestion to create a scholarship for one lucky poor kid to join the rich kids on this adventure. I have nothing against those families that can afford this extravagance. I just ask why is this so important to earn a place in your agenda, but not more focused on getting kids reading and learning again? The chart shows that this was a serious setback in learning caused by the COVID lockdowns and Zoom learning. Problems persist, including a huge increase in behavioral issues at all of our schools. I ask that this school committee provide more focus on this issue. I'm a huge fan of diversity and inclusion and equal opportunity to achieve. I support responsible green investments, but not soaking the middle class with very expensive symbols. Please consider my suggestion to form a subcommittee to focus on this issue. I want this district to be a leader on learning once again. All right, so I have copies of this. I'll just give it to the chair.
Thank you.
And also, I'm hoping that Amber will respond to my request last week, which was for more ELL resources at Hastings. And I know you're very busy, so I'm hoping that that's under consideration. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any comments?
No, I think I will let Daniel respond when he returns
Thank you, Joe.
at our next meeting, should he want to. I feel like, I think you're also going to have, coming at the meeting on the 28th, the director of support coming to present to you. And that would be the appropriate time for Joe to hear about how we disseminate our resources for meeting all the needs of our English language learners. So that's coming up, and that will answer your question that we are well resourced across all of our buildings and that our resources are directed based upon data, percentages, and the needs of each building. I want to be clear that I believe each of our buildings is well resourced. And I think you'll see that in Letitia's data when she presents. I believe Daniel would have clear feelings about Joe's interpretation of our data regarding our performance. And I want to be clear that while we did not form a subcommittee, you have invested a huge amount of dollars in expertise that work daily on the ground around literacy and math performance throughout the district. you have a curriculum coordinator, and you have literacy specialists, 2 literacy specialists across the district, a math specialist, a science specialist, and a social studies specialist who do screening data, work in small group with students. We have tiered support. We remain a high-performing district, and we are actively working with students who require additional support to grow their skills. While the data distresses Joe, I do not believe it's indicative of a lack of resources, effort, or high performance by our teachers. Our gaps have closed on many arenas with regard to both literacy and mathematics as well as science across the district, and the literacy benchmark data that we're gathering right now, because we use screening data to track performance of all readers in the district, is looking really good this year. So I would leave it to Daniel to update you, but I just want to close out to make sure in this meeting you're clear that we have both experts working around all of those areas, and that is the appropriate committee to be working on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make one comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Joe, I think also if you were to look at this, I mean, in order to really track the trajectory of where this is going, you have to give it, I mean, you're really looking at 22 to 23. That's the only piece of this that you're looking at. There hasn't been a significant change, but it's not been, you know, there's no dip there either. So, you know, why don't we continue to hear what Daniel has to say, and I'm sure that the results that we get from this year are going to also be telling, so I would continue to follow that.
Yeah, and just a final piece of that is just also to realize that since the start of the year, since September, we've enrolled 136 new students into district. So this data is not stagnant against the same group of kids that you're tracking to look at benchmark performance numbers. Like the fact that we have hundreds of children that come and go each year in this district, and we maintain strong benchmark numbers in our performance, means that our teachers are working very effectively to bring in students who are not schooled with us, who join us in whatever trajectory of skill set they bring, and that we were able to bring them forward and maintain our benchmark numbers while we were also in a COVID recovery. I think Daniel would be clear that we all suffered across the state and the nation during COVID, and you saw those performance dips. I think that is just really validating that public education works, and when kids weren't in school, they didn't learn. There's no surprises there. It's actually a huge compliment to public education that when students are in school, they're better emotionally, they're better physically, and they're better academically. And we are recovering, but it would be, you know, it will take time. So Daniel can speak to it with any more depth, so thank you for your comments as well.
May I also add a comment?
Sure.
We have reviewed the ELI data quite a bit. And I think what you're missing here, which may be misleading for the audience, is you're not showing the comparison to other benchmark towns that we always compare ourselves in. And you will see very similar dips, and in some areas they actually don't do as well as we do. So given the larger context, it's a different picture. Come again?
Well, I think the answer is that Daniel will be presented with your comments, and that we'll see where it takes us. So,
And I'm happy if you direct me, because I work for you, to go back into the strategic plan and pull for you all the benchmark items that are related to academic excellence. But we're always working on multiple goals, and academic excellence remains a core function at all times. And so I'm happy to go into that plan and reiterate for you from the mid-year report into last year's final report, the continual look at academic excellence that we bring to all aspects of curriculum, training, and instruction in the district. So should you be concerned that we are somehow not focused on academic excellence, I'm open to your direction.
perhaps we can talk to that offline.
Yep.
Get the input of the school committee, person by person, and see what we want to do. I have faith that, in fact, the effort has been made. To follow up on what Yakub had to say is simply we did compare ourselves to others in that same period, and we did not suffer as bad as they did. It's not to say that we can't improve ourselves, and I think that's your point. And let's have a look at it, see what turns up. So with that, if there's no other discussion, I think we can adjourn. Is there a motion to do so?
Yeah, I'd like to move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There you go. I bet you it's unanimous.
Look at that, 7:06. You came in at 1 hour and 3 minutes. Not bad.
Well,
Thank you, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to our families, and enjoy